So every video I've put up recently has been hit with a copyright infringement or some kind of copyright stuff. Some of them have been blocked outright, and some of them just looks like they're being shadow banned. I deleted one just recently, and it was saying there were 4 comments on it. When I opened it up, there were only 3. One of them was a reply by myself, and I don't know what happened, but as during the deletion process, the interface that you have with Google, with YouTube, there said there were 67 comments on that particular video, and it was to do with the Berkeley law professor there. So YouTube is not trustworthy in the slightest, so I don't know how this video is going to go, but here's a few thoughts on the world that we're living in at the moment. Okay, the war in Ukraine it's done 2 things. Firstly, it's stopped a lot of grain getting out of Ukraine and even being harvested in Ukraine. There's I've seen drone footage of fields that have been shelled and subsequently burnt. I've seen footage of just burnt fields of wheat, and then there's also wheat fields that are mined, and so the farmers can't harvest the wheat because they've run over a mine. Boom. So there's that. There's also Ukraine and Russia are both major producers of fertilizers. So that brings me to Sri Lanka. Now, Sri Lanka's collapsed recently, and it's not going to be getting any better anytime soon. But it's an interesting thing to look at. What happened there was the government decided that they were going to go organic, and therefore they made it illegal to use fertilizers on their fields. Now, 5-6 years ago, Sri Lanka looked pretty healthy economically. There's plenty of food to go around, and they were exporting food to import their energy needs to make up the shortfall in their energy needs. And so now they have no oil imports. They can't pay for them. The economy's completely collapsed, and there's no food. People are starving, and what's happened, of course, is that your farmers can't plant the next crop, so they've got a failure in the latest crops. They can't meet the needs of the people. People are starving, and the farmers can't afford, because they haven't had an income from the loss of their crops. They can't afford to plant the next crop. So it's getting worse, and it's just snowballing down. And so what we've got at the moment, you've got what looks like a food shortage, especially in Africa, and that's due to the Ukrainian wheat issue. And there's also, I think, the Russians are not able to export their wheat. So over here in Thailand, I'm seeing a shortage of cooking oil at the moment. The shelves, there's still cooking oil available. It's not rationed or anything, but the shelves have got blank spots in them in the supermarket And like, only 6 months ago, the cooking oil was just everywhere, and it was on special. You could buy it by the truckload, and suddenly you can't. It's not available. So what I'm saying is, you've got a food shortage happening, going to happen, and you've got a fertilizer shortage about to hit. So whatever happens this year with the food situation, and I'm thinking in terms of North America, Canada, USA, and all that, Europe, like major first world countries, Australia being another one, and then a fertilizer shortage, meaning that next year's crop is not going to make up the shortfall that's occurred this year, or is about to occur this year. And what that'll do is drive some of the farmers out of business. So the following year, where are we at now? 2024. That is going to be potentially even worse, because there's going to be less farmers. So even if they get the fertilizer shortage sorted out, and there's no likelihood of that. I mean, there's no one really talking about this. Unless they get that fertilizer shortage sorted out and enable the farmers to stay on the land, because you can't just walk onto a farm and start farming. That doesn't happen. You've got to have the knowledge of the land, and that gets passed down father to son, basically. So you've got what looks to me like, your economy's in a recession, or globally, food shortage, fertilizer shortage, which means more food shortage, which means less production the following year, potentially a lack of fertilizer as well. People say buckle up because we're in for a rough ride. Well, I think the things are potentially going to be a lot worse than we're being led to believe. I hope that's not the case, obviously. But let's just see how this thing pans out.